Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Jamez Report. Today, we're going to be talking about somebody who's been making a lot of waves for the last couple of years, and it don't seem to be getting any better. That man is none other than Matt Riddle. Before we get in this subject, we'll be talking about how toxic Matt Riddle has been, because Matt Riddle, in my opinion, and a lot of opinions of some legends and some other people, is he's being disrespectful to the business. And as always, if you like this video, if you like the content, hit that like, hit that subscribe. That way you never miss these videos. It's absolutely free. It helps the page out, helps me out, and hit that share button as well if you will. Now, those of you who have been keeping up with wrestling know Matt Riddle is now the United States champion in WWE on Monday Night Raw. He won this at Elimination Chamber thanks to the help of John Morrison distracting and Bobby Lashley, getting Bobby Lashley out of the ring, and then he would then pin John Morrison. So I made a video here not too long ago about The Undertaker calling the locker room soft, saying that, back in his day, men had, it was a men locker room. Guys had knives, they had guns, they wasn't back there playing video games, and they wasn't trying to look pretty and getting their hair just right and all this, etc., etc. This is on the Joe Rogan's podcast show, radio, or whatever. Matt Riddle would be asked about this, and he said, well, the Undertaker's era of wrestling is dumb. And I was watching the Booker T podcast show, which is called the Hall of Fame. And if you guys haven't seen it, go check it out. And Booker T was asked what did he think of Riddle's comments and what did he think of Matt Riddle as a whole. And Booker T said this, and I quote, "If he did say that, it should be a problem. If Riddle did say anything about what the Undertaker said regarding whatever it is, it should be a problem." And you know what? Booker T's absolutely right, because this is not the first time that Matt Riddle has ran his mouth about legends or has said or had some smart-aleck comment about legends. He said it about Brock Lesnar. He's always trying to provoke Brock Lesnar. And Brock Lesnar, after Royal Rumble, told him it's never going to happen. Bill Goldberg has also felt the wrath and the provoking of Matt Riddle. And he said, you know what? I don't want to wrestle him. Goldberg don't want nothing to do with him. Seth Rollins really doesn't like what Matt Riddle had to say about Becky Lynch being pregnant and things like that, or about Becky Lynch. So you're seeing a trend here. These are wrestlers that are big names. Seth Rollins obviously still wrestles. Bill Goldberg comes back off and on, but he's a Hall of Famer. Brock Lesnar is going to be a Hall of Famer, and yes, he's not been on TV for a while, but you have to understand, you cannot do that. And Matt Riddle said, well, I don't think the big guy, which talking about Vince McMahon, has a problem with it. And, Booker T even addresses that in a way. He says, if someone does not address it, it's going to continue to be a problem. It's that simple. It's absolutely right. Look, maybe Matt Riddle, this is his way of trying to get his name out there, to stay in the limelight, to make sure he never goes away and he's always in people's mind. But there's a right way and a wrong way of doing it. And coming out and saying these things and provoking these legends into a lot of people's opinions, including my own for that matter, it's disrespectful to the business. And you see it a lot in today's locker room. It's not just Matt Riddle, but Elias has came out and said, when these legends come back, they're taking our spot. Then what are you doing about it? If you believe that the spot that Hulk Hogan holds on the Legends Night is supposed to be for Elias or Matt Riddle or Mustafa Ali since he's at it, then do something about it. It's that flippin' simple. What are you doing to make yourself stand out in the back room where Vince McMahon goes, you know what, let's put Elias in this spot. Let's put such and such in this spot. What are you doing? But as far as addressing what Matt Riddle is doing, and I'm getting fired up, people. What Matt Riddle is doing is disrespectful to the business, because if it wasn't for Brock Lesnar, if it wasn't for Bill Goldberg, if it wasn't for Booker T, if it wasn't for Seth Rollins, who came before you, Matt Riddle, by the way, you would not have a job. They paved the way for you to have a job and for you to run your mouth about them. Yes, maybe you want a fantasy match, but there's a right way and a wrong way of doing things. By disrespecting them, you're not going to get a match. You're going to get in a fight. And yes, I see on social media, yes, I know he was a UFC, he fought in UFC, but his record was only 8-3, by the way. It wasn't some astounding number. It wasn't a great number. And Booker T would actually go on and say, if fighting is what you want to do, then go back to UFC. See what Daniel White had to say about him. And I got Dana White's quote here, and I got the whole quote about what he said. But before I get, I'm just going to get into it. Dana Brooke, from 2011 to 2013, and I'm quoting, that guy was making $162,000 a year, then comes out and says he was treated horrible. He was making something like $52,000 to $54,000 a fight 3 times a year. We have health insurance, which has never been done in the history of the world with fighting promoters. The reason he's not with UFC anymore is because he could not pass a drug test. You have to go to work 3 times a year, and you couldn't pass a drug test. You're so weak-minded and so addicted to marijuana that you couldn't stay off it enough to pass a drug test 3 times a year. Well, guess what, dummy? They drug test in the real world too. Finish the quote. I'm going to tell you guys something, and it fires me up. Yes, I know Matt Riddle has UFC training. Yes, I know it will go a long way, but it doesn't mean that you are an actual real-life tough guy. Pure and simple. It doesn't mean that you are a tough guy. You have the skill set, but it doesn't mean that you're legitimately a tough guy. Bill Goldberg, I would tell you, like him or hate him, he's a real tough guy. Undertaker, real tough guy. Brock Lesnar, real tough guy. So Matt Riddle better be careful he doesn't bite off more than he can chew, because I can tell you how it would be handled. He would never have survived back in the Attitude Era. I don't care if you disagree. I don't care if you agree. The fact of the matter is, Matt Riddle keeps running his mouth, and Booker T is 100% correct. It needs to be addressed. It's going to continue to be a problem. He had issues running his mouth to the media back in the UFC. It's transferred over to the WWE, and it sounds like Vince McMahon and them don't have a problem with it. But the fact of the matter remains is, you reward a guy for who's disrespecting those who paved the way for all these other wrestlers, including himself, to be in the position in which they're in. Yes, I know it's a different time period. Yes, I know it's a different era. Yes, I know they didn't have social media like they have social media today, back in Undertaker's era. But there's a right way and a wrong way of doing things. Booker T would also say, if Matt Riddle feels that way, then he needs to approach the Undertaker one-on-one, man-to-man, face-to-face. And Matt Riddle also said, you know what? I'm trying to remember the quote. He said, if you have a problem with someone in today's locker room, just come up and say it. Don't treat it like the Undertaker's era and get into a fist fight about it. You don't have to fight about it. Just talk it over. Then why is he not talking to the Undertaker? Why is he not seeking out the Undertaker? Why is he not seeking out these legends and talking to them instead of getting on social media and bringing all this tension and all this toxic atmosphere to the locker room? You have to handle things the right way. If you got a problem with someone, then take your own advice, Matt Riddle. Go talk to the Undertaker. Take Booker T's advice, Matt Riddle, and talk to the Undertaker. Because Booker T said, there's a right way and a wrong way to answer that question. If someone says that, did Undertaker come out and say, well, Matt Riddle's soft? No. Undertaker was talking about the locker room as a whole. He didn't come out and say anyone in particular. He said the locker room as a whole. Now, does that mean he's talking about you? And Booker T said, you know what? When someone asks that question, then you go, he ain't talking about me, and you go on. That's a way to avoid the question. And you can do that, but he chose not to. The Undertaker's the one name in the industry, him and I would say Stone Cold Steve Austin, that no one disrespects. I don't hear anyone ever say anything bad about Stone Cold Steve Austin. I've never heard anyone say anything bad about The Undertaker until Matt Riddle opened his mouth. So yeah, I'm not a big fan of Matt Riddle and his outside the ring antics. He's one heck of a wrestler. I'll give him all the respect in the world, but he lacks respect. And I'm gonna tell you what needs to happen to him, and what might happen to him is he's gonna make enough people mad at him where he's gonna get treated really bad in that locker room, and he might even get in an actual fight in the locker room, and we'll find out if he really is as tough as he pretends to be. He's lucky Chris Jericho's not there, because Chris Jericho's been known to pick on some fights. He's gotten in a fight with Brock Lesnar. He's been in a fight with Goldberg. Guarantee you, if Chris Jericho was in that locker room today, boy, he'd be in a fight with Matt Riddle. Maybe I shouldn't get all hyped up. Maybe I shouldn't get onto this, but you know what? I love the world of wrestling. All of it. From AEW to NXT to Impact. All of it. I love the industry. Have I ever been in it? No. But if I was in it, I sure the heck wouldn't be running my mouth about people who paved the way for me to be there. Even if I felt disrespected by them, I would go up and talk to them face to face. So Matt Riddle, talk to him face to face. Tell him how you feel. See if you can work something out. Instead of disrespecting them through the camera lens of reporters to get your name in the limelight. You're a United States champion. You better start acting like a champion. Because it won't be very long, you'll lose that title if you keep it up. I guarantee that. Because no business, whether it's wrestling or out in the real world at a real job, not a real job, because WWE is a real job. Wrestling is a real job. So I don't want to say that. But you go out to these jobs that pay less, like a factory or something like that, guess what? You have to face the same things. You got to be respectful to those around you. Pure and simple. Leave your comments down below. What do you think of Matt Riddle and what he's saying? Am I right? Am I wrong? Let me know if you agree. Let me know if you disagree. And, like I said, hit that like, hit that share, and hit that subscribe button. Thank you all for tuning in. Have a great one.